All right, so the car market right now is a very crazy place, especially on the used car side, which is what I deal with because I am a used car dealer. So something's happening right now in the car market that I've never ever experienced in the 13 years that I've done this. So 2 days ago, no, not 2 days ago, yesterday, we went to an auction and we bought 12 cars. And that's not rare for us throughout the course of the year, but right now at this time of the year is supposed to be when we're not able to touch vehicles. And later on in the video, I'll go through everything we bought. I'll even tell you what we paid for it, and I'll tell you what we'll plan to sell it for, barring any kind of blow ups or if we have to put a transmission or motor in anything. But I'll go through all of those vehicles and let you know what we paid and what we're going to sell them for. But the reason why this is so weird right now is because we have just come out of this time, and really a lot of dealers are still in this time where they should be selling a lot of vehicles. And that's spring sales season, tax time. We've talked about that a lot. Not going to rehash that. But why it's so weird is because these dealers should have already sold all of their vehicles, and now they should be rushing to auction to be able to reload their lots. That should send the wholesale prices spiking, and that should mean that a dealer like me who prepares before tax time gets here, which we already loaded our lots, we sold a lot of vehicles. That should mean that me not wanting to overpay for our vehicles should not be able to buy. And typically during this time, we go on vacation from buying cars for about a month's time. And we've been going to the auctions and we've been able to buy cars. So what does this mean for the market right now? This means that used car dealers in particular, they might be having a tough time, because if they're not trying to reload their lots right now, sending wholesale prices to the moon, then that means they're not moving cars. And that takes demand out of the wholesale realm of the used car side, meaning that dealers are not willing to pay up for cars at auction. And some dealers just might not even go to the auction right now, which causes the prices to stay at a area where we're able to step in and buy. Now, we're not getting screaming deals at auctions right now. We're still, in my opinion, the prices are still just a little bit elevated, but it's not to that ridiculous level that we are accustomed to at this time period. And what I worry for a lot of these used car dealers is if they went the route that I did and they loaded up, paid a little bit more for a lot of these cars before tax time, in preparation of tax time, and then they didn't hit it hard like we did, then what I worry for them is that a lot of their floor plans are probably going to come up due pretty soon. And we might see a lot of them in a lot of trouble. And what I'm going to watch at the auctions for the next month and a half or so is to see if the amount of dealers falls at these auctions, and if we start seeing more independent dealers start sending cars to auction. And the reason why I like to watch independent dealers, I'll take a step back. So most of the cars that go to auction, that at least the auctions that I go to, the auction that you see on our main channel, is they're from franchise dealers. And what will happen is a franchise dealer will take in a trade-in, and then they'll send it to auction, and that's where we buy our cars. That's what a majority of the cars that show up at auction come from. But there's also independent dealers that run cars, and typically the independent dealers that are running cars is not because they're trade-ins. A lot of the independent dealers that take trade-ins, at least the ones that I know, when they're taking in trade-in, they're taking it in to be able to resell it on their lot. And franchise dealers, they don't typically do that with the older cars, but the independent dealers do. So if we see a rise in the inventory at auctions from independent dealers, that means that these independent dealers are trying to figure out how to get rid of these cars any way possible. And the reason why this is not typically a viable solution for independent dealers is because the cars that they will send to auction will bring a great deal less than what franchise dealer cars will bring. And I'll explain that to you right now. Is is because so when I go to an auction, I'm looking and I want to buy franchise dealer cars and not independent dealer cars. The reason being is because I know that those franchise dealer cars are trade-ins. So that doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong with the car. It might mean that a consumer was ready to upgrade their car, so they traded in the car that they were driving mostly every day and going to upgrade to a brand new car. So that's why I like to buy trade-ins. That's the mostly where we get our vehicles. But if I see an independent dealer selling their car, and now every car that I see at the auction, they put who the seller is, so we know who we're buying the car from when we're walking the lot to see these cars. So when I see an independent car dealer, their name on the car, I just walk right past it. I don't even check it out. That's not a car that I'm going to buy. And the reason being is because if that independent dealer could sell that car, if it was a good car, they're not sending it to auction. They're going to retail it on their lot, and they're going to get the maximum amount of money out of that consumer. So the reason why that car is there is, one, it's not a desirable car, so they couldn't sell it. That tipped up on their floor plan, and now they're trying to get rid of it, or there's some kind of mechanical issue that they don't want to deal with, or it's nasty, dirty, whatever. There's some reason why that car is there from that independent dealer, and that means that if, in my thinking is the same thinking of all these other used car dealers that are at these auctions. If that used car dealer couldn't sell it on their lot, what makes me think I can sell it on my lot? So I'm not going to even entertain the thought of buying that car, and that's why we don't check them out. But as the reason why I'm going to start paying attention to the levels of independent dealer cars at these auctions is because if a lot of these small used car dealers like myself have gone through tax time, they didn't hit it hard, but they loaded up beforehand. Now, as their floor plans are starting to creep up on them, this 30, 60, 90 days that they have to pay this interest on these cars, or a lot of these floor plans, the way that they're structured for the smaller independent used car dealers is that after 60 days, after 90 days, they actually have to come up with 50% of the loan to pay their floor plan down. And a lot of this money that they have to come up with, they don't have in the first place. That's why they're using these lines of credit. So they have to take drastic measures. They have to unload these cars. And the quickest way for a car dealer to unload a vehicle is by selling it through auction, because they can take it to auction the day before the auction runs. It runs through the auction the next day, and literally they can get a check cut to them that same day. That's the easiest way for dealerships to raise cash. But their cars are going to bring way less than what they have in them. And we talked about that before, because independent dealers, we want to buy from franchise dealers. We don't want to buy from independent dealers. So when we see those independent cars there, we don't bid on them. That means they bring way less money. So you're going to see a lot of these independent dealers that send these cars to auction. They're going to be in trouble, because a car that they might have paid $5,000 for, a month, 2 months ago, that car might only bring $2,500 when they run it back through the lane. Yes, it's that dramatic of a drop off if you're seeing a franchise dealer versus an independent dealer at auction, just for the reasons that I'm saying. Because dealers like me, if there are fewer buyers in lane to raise their hand to bid on a car, it's not going to drive the price up. And they, at that point, have to make the decision, okay, it's only going to bring $2,500, but I need the cash right now. So do we take the loss on this one? Because they're not just going to keep running it. Some dealers do, but there's a saying in the auction world, first money, best money. And that means the first time you run the car, that's probably going to bring the most money that you're going to get on the car as the car sits at auction. So a lot of dealers know this, so they're going to dump the car if they need that cash right there. So that means for a lot of these independent dealers, a lot of losses are probably coming their way. And if they get their floor plans cut because they can't come up with a lot of this difference, then they're going to suffer as far as what they can buy on the inventory side. And I like to say this all the time: if your floor plans get cut, if you don't have any cash, you can't buy cars. You can't buy cars, you can't sell cars. You can't sell cars, you can't make any money. So at that point, why are you in business? But I do want to let you guys know what we bought at this auction. So there's 12 of them. So I'm gonna run through them as quickly as possible. We bought a 2002 Ford Expedition. We paid $1,800. Oh, and real quick, I'm just going to give you the actual buy price, the sell price of what we paid just for the car. But just know on top of that, there's going to be a buy fee. Just an example on this Expedition, we paid $1,800 for it, and the buy fee is $245. And let me find one that we paid the most for. The most we paid for any car on this list is $2,500, and the buy fee on that is $285. So as you pay more for a vehicle, the buy fee does go up, but it doesn't go up by very much. So that's only a $40 difference, and it's a $700 difference in how much we actually paid for the car. Okay, back to the top. 2002 Ford Expedition. Paid $1,800 for it. It's probably going to be a $3,000 car on our lot. A 2007 Chevy Cobalt. That one's only got 133,000 miles. So it's rare that we get something with that few miles for a price like this. But we paid $2,400 for it. It'll be $3,500, $4,000 depending on how nice it is. A 2010 Ford Edge. We paid $2,600 for it. Probably a $4,000 car. 2002 Toyota Camry. I love Camrys. We buy them whenever we see them. I think they're the best cars you can buy, especially the 4-cylinders. We paid $1,900 for it. It's going to be a $3,000, $3,500 car. 2010 Ford Fusion. We paid $2,100 for it. It'll be $3,500 car for us. 2004 Toyota Camry. We paid $2,400. Another $3,500, $4,000 car. 2007 Ford Taurus. I love Ford Tauruses. Ford Tauri. Yeah, close enough. We paid $2,400 for it. I think we paid too much for this car. Alex bought this. We talked about it. He said it was super, super nice, but I don't care how nice a Ford Taurus is. We're probably going to cap out about $3,500. We'll put $4,000 on it if it's super, super, super nice. But if it doesn't sell in 2 weeks, most of our cars will drop by $500 anyway. I would assume a Ford Taurus. Now, I love Ford Tauruses, Tauri, whatever. They're not the most desirable cars. They're frumpy looking. They look like your grandmother would drive them, and it might be a grandmother that buys that car. I think they're good cars, but they're not the most desirable. So that's probably going to be. We're probably going to start out at $4,000 and end up 2 weeks later. We're not going to get a call on it. Nate's going to recognize that and be like, yeah, people probably don't want it for this price. And we'll drop it. Typically what we do with our cars is, well, during tax time, it's different because we'll hold on to prices for longer because we know that there's money in the system. But throughout the year, other than tax time, because tax time is a weird time, but throughout the course of the rest of the year, what we'll typically do is we'll mark something for like $4,000. And if we don't get any attention on it or no test drives, anything like that, after 2 weeks, then we'll drop it by about $500. And that's what we do just across the board, no matter if we have 30 cars on the lot or if we have 80 cars, we'll do those price drops on the cars every 2 weeks. Lost my place. All right. 2008 Subaru Legacy. So that's going to be an Outback, I would assume. And we paid $2,500 for it. That'll be probably $4,000 car. A 2006 Nissan Altima. I talked about Altimas a lot. This is going to be the 4-cylinder. We don't buy the 6 cylinders because they were garbage, and they started the CVTs at 2007. So a 2006 is going to be a regular transmission, and we paid $1,900 for it, probably $3,000, $3,500. 2008 Pontiac G6, we paid $1,900 for it. $1,900, so it'd be $3,000, $3,500. A 2002 Hyundai Sonata, we only paid $1,200 for that. Wow. So the buyer fee on that one was $215. So way lower buyer fee because the price was lower. That I'm hoping if we don't have to do anything to it, we can get a $2,500 car. I'd love to have $2,500 cars on our lot. It's been very hard for us to have that, and we have people that come into our building all the time. It's like, look, I'm looking for a $2,500 car, and lately we've had to turn them away. So hopefully we'll be able to get that one out for $2,500. And a 2008 Ford Edge, we paid $1,600 for it. $3,000, probably somewhere around there. There we go. All right. I want to, there was a question that I saw that I want to address, and it's good because we just talked about cars that we buy. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on screen. There you go. Actually, my wife's here and she was on top of it. On my website. So someone has found our website. It's obvious that you don't shampoo your seats in recon process. Just how much recon do you do? So when we're selling these cars, we're trying to get them to our consumers as cheap as possible. We're not trying to button up these cars and make them a pretty package. The consumers that I want to serve, I want to get them A to B car. A lot of times it's a filler car. It's something that somebody needs to drive to get themselves out of a difficult situation. I don't like debt, and I don't want my consumers to have to go into debt to buy my vehicles. So that means I have to get my cars as cheap as possible. So that means that cosmetic things, sometimes radios. We don't fix that kind of stuff. We don't do a lot of shampooing on the carpets, on the seats. We don't do a ton of cleanup. We have a mobile detail company that comes out to us and will do a quick clean job on a lot of our cars, and we pay, I think it's $40 or $50. Baby, do you know I think it's like $50, somewhere in there on each car
Right.
that we. There you are. How do you know how much?
It's right at that. I wanted to say 45.
Yeah.
You said 40 or 50.
Yeah, it's
So
like 40, 45 or $50 that we pay for each car. So we don't pay a lot of money, but we try to put the least amount of money into our cars as possible so we can sell them as cheaply as possible. And I can tell you, these people that are coming to us and buying a $3,000, a $3,500, a $4,000 car, they don't care what the car looks like. They want to make sure that it's safe. They want to make sure that it's mechanically sound. And that's what they want out of these vehicles, because they don't want to have car payments. It does not need to look pretty for them. It needs to be a good car, and it needs to be safe, and it needs to get them to their next destination in life, whether that be them paying off debt, whether that be just this A to B car, they just got a new job, or if it's a kid, someone young starting a new career, they don't want to go out and buy these new cars with a $750 monthly payment. That's the consumer that I'm trying to sell to. That's the niche that I want to serve. And because I'm trying to serve that niche, we have to keep our prices as low as possible. And one thing that I feel like is not as important for the car, for the person that is buying that next car, is stains on the carpet. Because if they want that done, that's something that an individual can go in and clean themselves, but they can't go in and fix the O2 sensors themselves. They can't go in and fix the wheel bearings themselves, brakes, that kind of stuff we're going to handle. But somebody dealing without a radio can put in some headphones when they're driving, whatever. We're not going to deal with that kind of stuff, cosmetic issues, or things that don't really deal with the safety or the mechanics of the car. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to let the next customer figure that out, and we're going to make that car probably $500 cheaper than they can find it anywhere else, even maybe more than that, just because we're going to let them decide what they want to do with that car going forward. All right, we can take another question. What's
okay,
next?
how about a question from me that I don't put on the
Yeah,
screen?
go.
Can you talk a little bit about the percent markup? There's been just some general discussion. When you look at percentages on lower price items, that percentage can look pretty high pretty quickly, but the overhead's not necessarily lower as quickly as it is for a larger dealership. So how do we price, and what about profit margin?
Yeah, so we don't typically deal. I mean, we don't think about the profit margin whenever we're pricing our cars, because obviously we can go in and we can steal a car at these auctions. There's the cases where we can buy a car for $500 and it could be worth, or we could sell it for $3,500 and still be under where the market price is. So obviously that profit margin is massive. But if we were working off like a 10% profit margin or something like that, then obviously we're not selling that $3,500 car for, I mean, $1,000 would even be a 100% markup, right? So we're going to have a bigger profit margin on the things that we're able to buy cheaper, just because that, I mean, that's the nature of what we're doing when you're buying products like this. Now, obviously, a new car dealer, they're spending way more money on a vehicle than we are, so they can work on 10%, 20% margins. But whenever when we're buying and selling these vehicles, there's not just just the gross profit. Like the gross profit is, how am I trying to say? So if we're making like $1,000 on a car, if you see that we're buying a car like on the sheet that we paid $2,000 for it, I'm saying, okay, we're going to mark it up to $3,500. That seems like we're making a ton of money off the car. And on the gross side, yeah, but I got 5, 6, I got 7 people that we have to feed in this building. We've got advertising we got to pay. We've got power. We've got all the tools that we have to buy. So we've actually broke this down and figured it out. On an average car that we would sell, it'd be somewhere around $1,200. That's our average of what we're going to make on a car. But at the end of the day, after you take all of our expenses out, and I don't know why I remember this number, but my wife broke it out. But we make on a $1,200 profit, and it's a little bit dated, but we make $431. When we make $1,200, we actually only make $431 on our car. So our nets are probably going to break out to where it's probably comparable to where these bigger dealers make, just because of how much money we spend. And we don't try to hit home runs on every single car. We do the volume game. So when we're doing the volume game, we're okay making less money. There's a lot of car dealers out there that I've talked to that says, yeah, I can't even get out of bed in the morning for less than $2,500 a car, because they have added expenses of floor plans, and they're not playing the volume game. They're trying to hit home runs on every single car, and we're not trying to do that. So that's why you'll see our profit margins look very, very high when you're hearing us price these cars, but in the amounts that we're spending in the types of cars that we're buying, you really can't use percentages. You have to go off, okay, amounts, because business costs, I mean, it costs a lot of money. And if we were buying a car for $2,500 and selling it for $2,800, we would go in the hole on that car. Now, there are some cases where we buy a car for $2,500 and we end up figuring out, okay, we paid too much for it, and we have to sell it for $2,500. Those cases exist, and we end up losing money on a lot of cars because we just buy them wrong. And I'll leave you with this last little thing. So in the car market, there's a saying: you don't make the money whenever you sell the car, you make the money when you buy the car. So that reigns true with everything. If we know that we can make money on a car if we buy it right, but it takes a lot of work to buy cars right. And we're really thankful to have Alex, our mechanic, that does a lot of our buying for us, because he's great at doing it. And he's one of the reasons why we're able to do volume and we're able to keep our prices so low, is because he buys cars right. And we can save a lot of money fixing them because he can figure it out. He can do anything. He's a superhero. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. This is a different channel than our main channel. You might not know that. And please like this video. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.